Hey everyone, it's Karnak, it's your buddy, it's your pal. It's Star Wars Armada Explained. Today we're going to jump into Heavy Fire Zone. Heavy Fire Zone is one of the new cards in the 2 expansions that just got released. So we're going to dive right in. So Heavy Fire Zone is a Turbolaser upgrade card. How can you tell? With the Heavy Fire Zone, you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the card, you'll see the Turbolaser icon there. Opposite of that, you'll see that it only costs 4 points. Heavy Fire Zone doesn't have any other restrictions. It is the cheapest, now it is the cheapest Turbolaser in the game at 4 points. Although, as we kind of get into this card, you're going to wonder how it's still even that much. But maybe somebody will find use. I really like the art on the card. But anyway, let's dive right in. So Heavy Fire Zone, while attacking a squadron, before you gather dice, if the defender is not engaged with a friendly squadron, you may replace all of the blue die in your anti-squadron armament with red dice. Now, there's a lot of contention over this card, and I'll be upfront. Could have the developers slightly worded this card a little bit better? Sure. But for intents and purposes, the wording that they used works, and it allows this card to, what is it attempting to do? It's essentially allowing you to take out the blue dice in your battering armament, replace them with red dice, and allow you to be able to attack squadrons at long range. That's this card in a nutshell. How does it accomplish that? I'll walk you through it. So the first thing that we're going to check here with Heavy Fire Zone, we're going to say that this Imperial player here, the ISD-2, has it equipped. The ISD-2 carries 2 blue die, has a Turbolaser slot. So that all checks out. And we're going to say that these X-Wings are trying to be super smart and very sneaky. And they're like, aha, we want to stay out of blue range of the blue anti-squadron armament of this Star Destroyer. But we really want to shoot those TIE fighters. So let's see if we can kind of finagle that a little bit. I think we can right there. Let me just double check that. All right. Oh, yep. So you see there, these X-Wings can stay at long, and they're going to go, haha, we're coming in. We're going to shoot your poor little TIE guys. They don't even stand a chance for the rebellion. And the Imperial commander will wave an angry fist. He's like, no, set up a heavy fire zone. Unleash all of our firepower at these guys. So the first thing you do as a Star Destroyer, you activate, you say, hey, normally with my 2 blue die, I can only attack at medium range. I can't attack at long range. Aha! But I have Heavy Fire Zone. So while attacking a squadron before you gather dice, so the first thing you do, and this is where people are getting kind of confused, is, well, you don't gather dice until after you declare what your target is, and you check range, and they're not in range, so you can't replace the dice. So how do you do it? And it's broken down. I have it written out just so I don't mess it up. So using the attack sequence, I'll go through the steps. So first thing you do in the RNG, I've got it here. Hold on. I'll bust it out. You guys know when I bust it out, I'm being serious. It's largely because people will read the RNG, and they either, 1, don't read it in its entirety, or 2, they just kind of cherry pick what they want, or 3, a combination of all these things. So some people are very confused, and they think that these little bullet points are steps in sequence of what you have to do. That is not true. These are clarifications or reminders of what you should be doing in the attack step for declared target. Remember, there's only 6 steps to the attack step. Declare target, roll attack die, resolve attack effects, spend defense tokens, resolve damage, declare additional squadron targets if you have more in your flak pool. People are looking at 1 and they're like, oh, it's 1 and then 1, 2, and then 2 and 1, 2, 3. No, these are all considered part of the declare target. Okay, so the first thing you're doing is you're declaring your target. I am targeting this X-Wing, and I am checking now to see if I have line of sight. I have line of sight, because that's the first thing. Declare target. The attacker declares the defender, or if it's a squadron, and then you measure line of sight to determine if it's obstructed. Okay, I've done that. I have line of sight to the target. It's not obstructed. Okay, so that is the first thing you're doing here when you're declaring target is you're measuring line of sight. One of the other things that you also do when you're doing your declare targeting is that you are checking range. And this is where people are getting hung up on. They're thinking that when you are checking range and putting your range ruler down and saying, oh, it's at long range, it's out. And that there is no timing to replace die because they're theoretically not even in range to do anything. But, you know, again, read everything all the way through. I know that the card could have been worded better. But again, it's before you gather dice is when you can change the dice in the armament pool. So even though we haven't reached the roll attack dice step yet, okay, and we're still in the declare target step, again, it's saying right there, let's see, before you gather dice. Well, what's before gathering dice? What's before step 2? Step 1, declare target. Target is before rolling attack dice. So in declare target, you are taking out your line of sight, you're measuring line of sight. Okay, they're in line of sight. You're taking out your range tool when you're putting your range tool down to determine what range that they're in so that you can conduct the attack. And when you're checking that range, you're gathering your dice pool to conduct the attack with it. And instead of gathering the 2 blue die, you're gathering 2 red die instead. It's a simultaneous action at the same time that you're checking range to see if you're in range to actually shoot, is when the switch out is happening. And you're picking up those red dice to then say, I have red dice in my anti-armament squadron pool to be able to conduct this attack now at long range. Again, if people want to nitpick that and tear it apart and say, no, it's wrong because of 15 other, okay, you can do that. But that is absolutely not the developer's intent. And the way that the card is written does allow for this. And I'm just sorry that if you're upset that you want to make the card not work, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand why people feel like they want to make the card not work at all, like how it is designed. Like I said, could have been worded better, as a lot of cards in the most recent expansions have proven that they could be worded better. But it works. The wording does work. It does allow for this. And I'm a little heated about it because I've gotten into so many arguments with people about this already. Like, people look at me, it's like, no, you're wrong. I'm like, how? I mean, I know I've been wrong about stuff, and I'll admit if I'm wrong, but, like, I'm not wrong about this. I've talked to so many people. Many people agree that are part of the development process that I've talked to, other judges, and essentially nobody in the major judging community is like, no, this is totally fine. This works. So if you feel that it is wrong, that is your opinion. It is not anybody else's opinion. All right, let's move on before I get into like, oh, just so worked up. Anyway, all right. So we bring up our dice pool. Instead of gathering the 2 blue die, you replace them with the 2 red die. Oh, God, I forgot I had my volume set way too high. All right, apologies about that. So and then you throw your 2 red dice. And that is heavy fire zone. Now, in this situation, it wouldn't have worked because there is another part to this card. You can only do this if the defender is not engaged with a friendly squadron. So if these X-Wings, I should step back and say, if they are engaged with your buddies, you can't use it. They're essentially in the way. But if these X-Wings were further back, for instance, further back here, now they're not engaged with any enemies, because again, while attacking a squadron before you gather dice, if the defender is not engaged with a friendly squadron, you may replace all the blue die in your anti-squadron armament with red die. Now, I do want to note here is that you are replacing all of your blues, okay? There's no mix match, pick what you want. You know, it's not a buffet. You can't have everything. It's either you have cake or you don't have cake with this card. Although that's so the reason why I say that is because if they are straddling, hold on, let me see here. There is no range restriction on this card. So, for example, if they were straddling, the red or the blue line there, or even if they were in close range, which this card again works at any range that, as long as you can initiate at long. So even if they're at close range, if you wanted to switch out blue dice with red dice, you could. But again, it's all of them. There's no mix, no match. And you can't switch out black dice. It's only blue dice. Okay. So again, throw these X-Wings back out here. You measure line of sight, you check range, you switch out the blues for the red, you throw the attack pool, and again, they need to not be engaged with any friendlies. If you got friendly forces hovering around them like little helicopters, can't use this card. Okay, I think I've covered that pretty sufficiently. Now, one point I do want to point out with the engaged monkier, remember that's any squadron that is at distance one of each other and there's no obstruction. If, for example, there is an obstacle in the way, and even though this friendly squadron might be within distance 1, when you draw that line of sight between the two, you'll see that it's blocked by the obstacle. There is no engagement. All right? Kind of the same deal if you watch like the Mauler Mythal video, when he does his movement, it's only targets he's engaged with actually suffer that like little splash damage he does. So in this case, even though the Star Destroyer would be shooting also obstructed through this obstacle, he could still at least be throwing one red die at the enemy. He's not being blocked from doing this. Another kind of way you could look at it is, for example, if this obstacle was here and this TIE fighter was here and he was totally blocked off, no engagement, well then, he can go to town and still shoot those X-Wings. Because again, they're not engaged. All right. I think I've covered that point. What do I got left? Let's talk about quad laser turrets. Does this card work with quad laser turrets? Yes, it absolutely does. Because, let's see here. Because it's still following all of the attack steps as you normally would. So remember, counter 1 is still an attack. You still go through all the same attack steps. So if I don't know what I did with it, here we go. Nope, I lost it. Doesn't matter. You still go through all the same attack steps. So again, you declare target, you gather your dice pool, you can switch out the blue with the red. So if you wanted to turn your blue die into a red die with heavy fire zone, totally fine. Can absolutely do that. What about, for example, Agent Callus and General Draven's add die ability? So they can't add die until after the initial attack pool is rolled. Some people were saying, oh yeah, there's a squad that was at long range, so what I did was I added Callus's die to the initial attack pool and then switched it, and then I could add these other... No. Again, you're getting confused about what these cards can do. So they specifically are, while attacking, add a die, and an add effect is in the resolve attack effect step. That's step 3, is when you can add dice. Remember, with heavy fire zone, you're replacing the dice. You're not adding any dice or anything like that. You're just simply taking out the blues, putting in the reds. With Draven and Callus, you can't put a blue in it and then change it with heavy fire zone to a red dice, because again, they're added after the fact. Okay. I don't think there's anything else crazy going on here. Again, I'm going to read through just again one more time with heavy fire zone. So it's step 1, declare target, in this case a ship attacking the squadron. Step 2, as you are checking range, declare using heavy fire zone, and since you were declare target step, which is before the roll attack die step, this allows you to replace the blue die with a red die. Now when the range is checked, the squadron is in attack range. Step 3, and now move on to the roll attack die step, gathering the red dice needed to conduct the attack at long range. Alright, so that is the... don't need to do that. That is heavy fire zone. Appreciate you guys watching the video. If you have questions or if you want to, make suggestions about what you think the interpretation is, I invite those comments. I'm going to tell you up front that you're not going to convince me that it's any different than this interpretation. But if you want to try to present your point, your information, go for it. I'll gladly listen to it, and I'll tell you that you're wrong. But that's what's great thing about Armada is that, you're just listening to a guy giving his unofficial opinion, and you don't have to believe me. You can make your own choices. So if you have confusion about the card, remember, always talk to your tournament organizer at a prime or wherever you're going to ensure you're understanding correctly how they're going to rule that card. But again, any other questions, concerns? If you feel like I missed anything or didn't cover something, please be sure to, again, leave a comment. Let me know. You guys are fantastic. And hey, I'll catch you all next time.